Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's been a long time since I've used my channel here, but given the current circumstances of the world, I've got a lot of spare time on my hands. So what I want to do with my channel here now is sort of a fixing eBay junk series. I take stuff from eBay that I found for relatively cheap, repair it, clean it, do whatever I need to do with it, and get it up and working again. So what I've got here is 4 Megadrive controllers, or Genesis if you're from the States, if you're watching this. So I've got 4 Megadrive controllers here. I just want to talk a little bit about the differences of them, how Sega made them. Sega had 3 different factories in Taiwan, Malaysia and China. 3 different factories probably making all different kinds of controllers, and some of them are a little bit similar, but some of them are very, very vastly different. So in this video here, I'm just going to go through a few of the key differences, a few similarities, you know, what separates one from the other. A lot of these are not interchangeable. On the outside, it may look like they are, especially this one and this one, other than like the button colours, red and grey. They may look similar, but on the insides they're very, very different. So I'm just going to go over what I've got here. Now, this isn't the whole of them. There is a few other controllers, and I've got one just off to my right, just over there. It's a Megafire controller, which is sort of basically just one of these, but a turbo with turbo switches. So we'll look at that in a different video, because I suspect this video is going to be quite long. But I've already taken the screws out of these, so I can get into them a little bit easier. So what I've got here is, I don't know what model number this is, hold on. Okay, so that's a 1650, 1650 model number. Now, I'll start with this one just because it's in the top left and we'll work clockwise. So this one on the back here has this little notch that you can see there. So this is a double-sided board. Believe it or not, Sega made these controllers with the ABC on one side of the board and the D-pad on the other side of the board. So on this one here, the ABC is over here on the front face of the board that you'd expect, but the D-pad is actually over here on this side of the board. So I'll crack into this one now. I'm going to push these aside just so I can make a little bit more space. So we've got this one here. So like I said, it's a double-sided board. So if I take the back off, and I've already taken the screws out. So as you can see, it's not what you would expect. Yeah, so there is the rubber membrane for the D-pad that is on the back side of the board. Now, it's a little bit ingenious how Sega engineered this. I'm just going to put the camera down because I'm going to drop it. So it's a little bit ingenious how Sega engineered this. So the D-pad actually works by, flip this over. So you've got your ABC, and then you've got the D-pad here. So when you press up, down, left, right, it's actually pressing this. Now this has, I don't know if you can hear it, this has a little clickiness to it, and the way it works is when you press down on the D-pad from the front, you press this backwards towards the back shell, and then on the back shell you've got this. So this here sits in there and it acts as like a little tilt table kind of thing. So when you press down, that on the back there sits in that little ring, and then it tilts whichever way you press. And then that's how it registers a button press. So if I take this off, give me 1 second. If I take this off here now, you can see we've got a rubber membrane for the D-pad. And yeah, like I said, the back side of the board facing away from you is actually where the contacts are. So if I just take this board out now, oops, lost a little rubber pad there. If I take this out now, you can see this board has had a little bit of damage that I've repaired. So there is some of my nail polish on it that I'm just using as a PCB coating. The one The one downside to this type of board design is over here actually. So the D-pad plastic, let me just grab it. This little piece of D-pad plastic, inside the controller it is actually sitting just on here. I can get it in now. Yeah, so it sits just like that. Now, there is nothing protecting the board from the D-pad. They're literally sandwiched together. And on this type of design, there's a design flaw that, for whatever reason, in this shell, when the D-pad's in, you've got these little cutouts for it to sit in. But when it's being pressed, these cutouts are just a tiny, like half a millimeter too big. So the D-pad plastic actually, as it tilts up, down, left, right, it's actually shifting ever so slightly side to side. Very, very small. And what's happening is, on this one, as it moves side to side very slightly, it's actually rubbing against this trace here. So I don't know if you can see, I've got my nail polish on it now because there's some exposed copper. And I've done quite a lot of these controllers now, so I've seen this quite a lot, where as the D-pad moves, it rocks. It's scratching this trace, and it's scratching the coating off it. On some of them it's not so bad, it's literally just a case of the coatings come off, and you can just cover it with any kind of overcoat. But on one of them I've had in the past, this trace here, just on the edge, is completely gone. Like, there's no connectivity between that pin and that pin. And I don't know what that pin does. It goes to a resistor on the backside, and it goes to the main wire. So I'm not sure what that trace does, but on one of them I've had it where that trace is just gone completely, just there. So on this one it's not too bad, it's just lightly scratched the surface. The overcoating's gone, but I've just covered it so it's protected. So yeah, as you can see, this side you've got your A, B, C and your start button up there, and then on the back side is the D-pad, up, down, left, right, and on this side you've got nothing where the ABC is. So that's realistically the first design controller. It's a double-sided board. These ones, when I've encountered them in the past, like I said, fixing eBay stuff, these ones haven't been too bad. The only downside I've ever had with these, like, on some of them membranes fail and you get all kinds of weird failures. On these, this membrane has never failed. I've never seen this membrane torn, break, rip, anything. This membrane has been solid. The only downside with this double-sided board is the way the plastic scratches this trace. And if you come across any of this double-sided board, you will see the D-pad scratches this trace, and it tends to scratch in a circle. So it's scratching basically all around here, and you'll get, on some of them it's not so bad, but you'll get a lot of exposed copper. So on this one, as you can see, I've got it covered with nail polish just to act as a overcoating, so I don't have a proper PCB overcoat pen, but nail polish will be fine, it's not conductive. So over here is not too bad because it's basically just the ground layer of the board. There's nothing over here to be damaged. It's this trace here that is most prone to failure, and that's literally just because they've designed this. It sits in the plastic, and it, like you said, it tilts up, down, left, right, but it's moving ever so slightly, like in a circular motion, and that's what's causing that PCB trace to fail. Just that, this one piece of plastic, because there's nothing separating this plastic back here from the board. And that's it. That's the first design of controller. I'm going to show you a second design. If you give me just a moment, I will cut it here. Okay, next controller. So this controller is the Asia Pacific Japanese variant of controller. I call it the trigger controller just because it's got the red painted ABC here, it's got trigger written here, or painted here rather, and it's got this blue button. Now the blue button is specifically because it's the Japanese version. So if you look at the back, I don't know if it'll be able to see there, so it's model number SJ-3500. So this is the Japanese controller. I'm going to bring another controller in just for comparison. I just want to show you something. So we've got this controller here that resembles a very, very regular early 1650 model controller, which it is. On the back it's a 1650. And on the front you've got the classic D-pad, ABC written up here and the buttons, and you've got trigger painted here with a grey button here. Now these two controllers are exactly identical on the insides. The only difference really between these two is just the front shell here. So you've got the blue button, you've got trigger painted here, and you've got ABC painted in red with no trigger there. It's moved up there. So I'm not going to take this one apart because, like I said, they're both identical. So I'm going to put that one to the side. I'm just going to use this one because it's more interesting. So this one, the D-pad, I really do like this D-pad more than the double-sided board. The double-sided board has like a travel feel effect to it, so when you press, it takes maybe what, a quarter of a second longer to register a press. The D-pad has to, you know, travel up, down, left, right, down towards the back of the board further before you get a button press. So on this one doesn't. The membrane is on the front here, just beneath this pad. So on this one you don't get that board scratching effect. You don't get any trace damage here. This one takes so much less time to register a button press because the pad is literally right below it. So the second you touch this, you get a button press. It's really, really nice. What I will say is the D-pad that's below this, on this one, is really, really nice. It's in really good condition. On some of them, not specifically the Japanese one, because this is my first time looking at the Japanese one, but on some of them that have this D-pad here just below it, I've come across where it's been pressed that many times that the membrane is actually worn out and the pads are torn, so you don't have any of that sort of springiness feel. It doesn't pop back up. So we'll dive inside this one now. Like I said, I've already taken the screws out earlier. So on this one you've got a single-sided board, which is, like I said, you've got the membrane on the other side here where the D-pad is, and you've got ABC start over here. So if I take this board out, I can't remember if this has got any damage to it. So it's a very simplistic design of board. There's nothing too special about it. I'll talk about that in just a second. So over here again you've got your ABC start button up here. These tend to be quite good on this controller. I don't come across these very often where any of these pads are damaged or traces are damaged or anything. On this design of controller over here is really, really solid. I've never had a problem. Over here is where, again, the D-pad plastic is causing an issue. So let me just get that out. Give me 1 second. So on this design of controller you've got this D-pad plastic, which is a little bit smaller than the other one I showed you from the double-sided board. But on the back of this you've got this that sits against the board. I'll show you in just a second. That sits against the board so that when you press up, down, left, right, it tilts itself. And again, the plastic cutouts for this are just a tiny fraction of a millimetre too big, so it's moving ever so slightly. And I'll show you what I mean. So on this one, as you can see, the D-pad sits above it, and it tilts with the rubber membrane to register a button press. Now on this one, this here, little bit of plastic that tilts, is actually, again, it's rubbing against the board. So just here where this thin trace is that goes down to the down pad, and it goes all along over here to that second pin, that there is being scratched and rubbed because of the plastic. And it's it's scratching it literally between this thin trace here and this larger trace over here that connects, what is it, right and up. Like literally in the middle there, it's sort of grinding itself into the board. It's like a screwdriver effect where it's like digging a little hole into the board. So on this one, again, I've covered it with nail polish. It's not conductive, and I've just coated it ever so slightly because it is starting to scratch that thin trace there, and it might cause the down button to not work anymore, not register correctly. So I've covered it with nail polish just to try and protect it. So that should be good now because that is completely solid and it will sit above it. I don't think it'll be damaged, at least not for a long time, because that's not going anywhere. And like I said, it's the same with this. On the inside, this is, again, exactly identical. So if I take the back off, you can see we've got a double-sided board, and again, same issue. ABC start over here, absolutely fine, solid. And then in the middle here, you've got that D-pad that rocks up, down, left, right, and it's scratching the board just here in the centre where that trace is. So again, this one probably has my nail polish on it, just to cover it again. But yeah, like I said, I do prefer this board, just because you've got so much less travel, and the board's falling out. So much less travel with the D-pad. I do like this one. So yeah, that's the second design of controller between, like I said, I call it the trigger effect, the trigger controller. So let me get the third design of board and I'll show you that one. Okay, and last controller is this one. So this is a model number 1650 1650. It's a red button, and you've got ABC painted here with the ABC buttons, and there should be trigger painted here, but on this one it's rubbed off quite a lot. There's only a tiny fraction of it remaining just there. I don't know if you can see that. No, it's not going to pick it up on the camera. So this one is similar to the last one. It's a single-sided board that just faces the front here. This one, the D-pad is a little bit spongy, and I'll show you why. That's because of the membrane inside, just underneath it here. So if I take back off this, I've already taken the screws out. So as you can see, you've got a single-sided board, ABC start, and up, down, left, right here. So I'll take the board out and I'll show you what's interesting about this one. Put that to the side for a second. So on this one you've got these gold-plated pads. There is a design of this board here where it's carbon-coated pads rather than gold-plated. I don't know why. I'm assuming that's just the way the factory made these. Are a little bit different. So this one is gold-plated, like I said. So what's interesting about this, the board is actually fine. With these I never ever see any type of board damage. Never see any like scratch traces over here by the D-pad. Never see any scratch traces over here. This board is pristine. I never see anything wrong with this board. It's the controller plastics over there. I'll show you in a second. So this is what causes the problem. So on this one, if I take that off, you can see it's like a I'm going to call it a four-leaf clover design, where you've got, you know, a four-leaf clover shape here. And this is what tilts the D-pad. It's actually screwed in. The front side plastic is held in by a piece of, you know, plastic inside that is screwed together. So that's what holds the D-pad. It stops it falling out if I hold it upside down. So this one is what causes issues here, is this. Now, on a lot of these four-leaf clover designs I see, I've got an entire box full, just over there, full of these type of pads, or this type of controller in general that takes this pad. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know if it's a manufacturer design, a design flaw, but for whatever reason, all the controllers I've had that I've worked on that take this pad, they've always been ruined. Like, every single button was torn, ripped, so there's no springiness or sponginess feel. As soon as you press it, it just sort of sits down, and you don't get that spring back up press with the D-pad plastic. So I don't know why. I don't know if it's a manufacturing design. Now, this pad in particular, I've got lucky with this one. It's in good shape. It's got some life left in it. On the back is just your normal carbon pads. You can sort of see where it's used a little bit. It's not too bad. It does work. But this one is really spongy. So on this one, when you press it down, you do get that spring back up, you know, that kind of feel. But when you press it, it doesn't feel like it travels very far. It barely moves. So when you press on the plastic, you do get a button press. It works absolutely fine, but it just doesn't feel like the rest of them. You don't get that clickiness, if that's the phrase you want to use. This one, you sort of get like a sponginess. So when you press it, it barely moves. You don't have to press very hard to get a button press out of these. So, like I said, on a lot of them I've had in the past, I've got a box full up there, the pad has just disintegrated. Every single button, up, down, left, right, has just ripped, and they're completely gone, completely useless. But other than that, there's nothing really impressive about these controllers. The single-sided board design, I like it. The buttons feel really nice. They don't have much travel between pressing and actually getting a button press registered in the game. So I prefer these front-sided boards, the single-sided boards, rather than the rear double-sided board. Over here, just, again, your typical ABC start. Nothing too impressive. It's just, I don't know why. Maybe it's just unlucky. Maybe it's just my dumb luck. But I've never come across any of these that are in good shape. They've always been torn, ripped, and completely worthless. But it seems on this one, I got lucky. This one is in good shape and it works. For now, at least. I don't know what's going to happen with this in the future. I don't know how long this has got left in it. I don't know if it's on its last legs. It feels in good condition, so it should be good for another few years, hopefully, depending on how much it's used. But it might fail, this one. These ones I never have any luck with. They fail instantly. So yeah, that's the last type of board I'm going to show for today. Like I said, I've got another type of board, the Megadrive. Let me just grab that, which is this one. So I'm going to show this in a different video, but this is a small hint into it. So in closing, I just want to add, I got these from a job lot on eBay. I got 36 different Megadrive controllers. A lot of them, obviously being 36, a lot of them are identical and interchangeable, so if anything goes wrong, I can swap parts around and, you know, all that good stuff. I can rebuild the controllers. But on some of them, I think I've only had 2 out of the 36 that failed really badly. I had one where it was the front side board with that round shaped pad, and the pad was just disintegrated. Like, I lifted it up, lifted the board out, went to look at the pad, and it was gone. Like, the rubber looked like it had melted into the board, because the second I started touching it and lifting it away from the board, it just fell apart in my hands. Like, I applied no pressure whatsoever to it, and it just broke down. I think that plus one of these was the only one out of the 36 I had that weren't recoverable. And again, that's because the D-pad on this one just fails for fun. There's no rhyme or reason to it. I guess it's just a manufacturing design, but this one seems to be a lot more sensitive and prone to failure. The rest of the controllers I've had that don't use this 4-leaf clover design are in good shape. It's just this design that seems to be iffy. Some of them I get, like this one, are in good condition, good shape. Some of them I get are just gone. They had it. They've gone probably a year or so ago, the pads broke down and the membrane just stopped working. So yeah, that's all for today. I will have another video with the Megafire controller just over there. I'm going to work on that, and I'm going to show you that in a little bit, because I want to show it in its best form. Because right now the Megafires I've got that came in that I'm going to be working on are absolutely filthy, gross, disgusting, and need a really good clean. So yeah, that's all for today. I will see you guys next time. Peace.